Saludos from Puerto Rico. It's great to be in a full of colleagues and people that understand growth, which is the topic of the day. Ironically, this is really what we have dedicated our life to, the growth of children and the development of children. So when I was asked to share a little bit of our journey in terms of growth, it was easier to relate it to the work that we do every day. I am the CEO of the Platform for Social Impact, and our work in Puerto Rico is aligned to reducing child poverty in a variety of ways. So I'm going to share with you today a few of the lessons learned through the year, and I hope that you can relate these to the work that we do every day. Um, First of all, sometimes we think that growth is something that is really uh, separate from the work that we do every day. And the first thing that we learned when we started growing and understanding growth was that it was very important to understand destination. For us that work with children every day, we do learn about developmental stages, and we know what are the appropriate skills that and knowledge that children should have through their growth spurs. And with organization, it's not any different. So as we share with you some of the inside learnings, I really want you to reflect on thinking about organizations as living and breathing organisms. And the first thing that for us, when we think about growth, is key and paramount, is to understand where we want to go. Really, where is the final destination? And for that, we have always emphasized with our staff, with our communities, with our volunteers, with our investors, the why. Why we are thinking about the work in a way that we're thinking about that work, why we're doing the work that we're doing. And before we decide to hit the road, this is worth spending time. Um, and one of the recommendations that we really stress out with most of the people that we interact when they ask us about how you were able to significantly grow into multiple organizations across the whole island with over 500 people and staff, we always bring people back to the why. And I really challenge each one of you, if you're thinking about growth, that the first question that you have to answer is why. What is the purpose of this organization? Why adding additional services, additional programs will be better for the people that we serve? Why this community, this region, or this country of this world is better if we have more of what we have to offer? And those are questions that usually don't happen in the answer for those questions usually don't come in one session. It's the habit of asking the question of why and why. So if you are already thinking about growth, you should really, the first thing that you should do is go back and say, how much time have I spent in the last year reflecting on the why, on the different aspects of the why? And if it's something that you have not spent some time, that would be the first action item. You put together a group of people from your organization, from community leaders, from people that have been involved in your work, and just have conversations around what are the aspirations that we have for our communities, for our kids, for our families, and try to answer that question of why. The second thing that is key when we begin to think about growth is that you need to manage growth in a strategic way. For We have been um, fortunate enough to have incredible colleagues, not only in Puerto Rico but abroad, that have shared their journey. And in that journey, they have shared their success, and they also we have shared our fair share of failures. And on those failures, a lot of time we have identified that not having a strategic process to manage growth really is a recipe for not capitalizing everything that is good for children and family. So I would stress that if you are already in the process of thinking about growth and you are deep in reflecting on why you want to grow, the next thing that you should think about really is about what is the strategic framework that this organization is going to follow. Where are we going to hold ourselves accountable of the growth of the progress of the initiative? Where are we going to look back and see what worked, what did not work? What framework help us learn? Because the road of growth really is a road of learning, and having a process in place will help you catalog that information. I will help you reflect, go back, learn, adapt, and continue to move in your growth journey. And growing is not a one time thing. Growing takes effort. Growing takes cycles. Once you have been clear about your destination, once you decide to go on the road, once you decide to start expanding services and programs, the work requires continuity. It requires that you constantly are in the process of moving forward that agenda that you have set. And for that, we always think about four things that help you keep you moving forward and keep you swimming. The first one is that strategy and growth strategy specifically require management. And one of the things that we have been able to institutionalize now for the past 16 years, we can go back and document every 3 months how the organization executed, what was the evaluation and analysis of that execution, and the adjustments that were made. And that is a cultural habit of maintaining the growth trajectory moving forward. So if you don't have a formal process right now, and you're thinking about growing your organization, your services, we will start with getting the infrastructure ready, and that infrastructure includes follow-ups. And those follow-ups, they need to happen at least every 3 months. One key issue with stopping every 3 months is that 3 months is pretty much an operational framework, and we have to really be educated in terms of separating a space that is only devoted to thinking about the strategic plan, thinking about the growth strategy that you have decided to do, and try to keep everything that is day to day outside those meetings. But very important that you cash every 3 months, you cash things that are starting to be outside the plan, and you can adjust everybody into alignment. The second thing is that growth usually happen in a multi-year cycle. So beyond being able to every 3 months stop and revise the plan, definitely once a year, you really need to stop and think about trends. What are now the four trimesters telling us about how far are we advancing with our growth strategy? What changed significantly in the last 12 months that we did not anticipate? What are the greatest opportunities to move this agenda forward? What are the threats in the horizon that can derail this plan? That is a space that organizations need to devote every year when they think about growth, to just stop completely and have an opportunity to look at the past 12 months and evaluate how the execution went and major adjustments that need to happen for the next year. And the third one is about building internal infrastructure. The reality is that we have all managed organizations in probably different stages of development. And like children, there are seasons that we are more equipped than others. But once we decide that our ultimate goal includes a growth strategy, there's a specific and intentional effort that needs to be placed in developing the internal infrastructure to support the growth. And this is where most organizations really uh, don't put the time, the effort, the systems to be able to support the growth. And this is something that is the tedious work. This is the type of thing that you need to go and talk to your current staff. This is the type of thing that you need to go and observe how the processes happen on day to day. This is really where you understand inside out your organization, and at the same time you start to identify areas of improvement that will have to be managed, that will have to be planned for acquiring the necessary skills, structure, processes to support the growth. So I cannot emphasize enough that if we're going to grow in the organization, there have to be people that have the responsibility of building the internal infrastructure to support the growth. And lastly, this is the era of data. We cannot do what we are set out to do mission-wise without understanding that, and that extrapolate to any growth strategy. If we are really about providing more opportunities for children and families and communities, they have to be a system in place to monitor and to manage data. And I stress this a lot because we have been approached in the past to grow our organization in different capacities. And what have kept us disciplined in some of those decisions is that we put time to put some data systems, and we can anchor some of these very important decisions on data. What is most important for our children, our community? Those data sets need to be available. They need to be easily shareable. How our performance through the years have evolved. That is information that when you think about growing will be required. And those are things that are scalable. If you don't need to think about, I need the biggest data system to begin, but you really need, and that's not the case. But the case is that you do need simple systems of data management that you continue to, with time, continue to evolve. And so once you're in the road, you definitely need to expect that it's not going to be everything according to plan, and definitely growth strategy are about changing the status quo, and changing the status quo inherently brings some resistance, and that is part of the strategic management process. This is something that we don't wait until the adversity comes to manage it. This is something that we anticipate, that it has to be part of the growth plan. It has to be managed. It has to be assigned. And this is something that it should be the top priority of any executive team or board of directors conversation. Avoiding, mitigating, capitalizing on potential risk for the strategy is really most of the time the differentiator of success growth or growth that gets stunned by either one of these bullet points. And for us, while people can really make the argument, you can put here another 10 or 20 bullets about all the risks that is involved in growing. For us, really have boiled down in the last 20 years to these three. And the first one is the culture of the unity of purpose. The reality is that once you decide to grow, that exercise alone means that there's going to be more of you, and understanding that more of you would require alignment, that more of you really requires understanding of what is important to us, what are the principles, why are we doing this work. That is the part that oftentimes people overlook, and we have learned through the years, through our own mistakes, that putting the time to having people understanding why we do the things that we do instead of having people talking about the things that we do has been the difference. And really that materializing in the culture of people wanting to be part of something that is bigger than themselves. So if if you don't have enough resources to really think about risk and and mitigate some of these risks, I will tell you that disproportionately put some time and resources on making sure that when you decide to grow, you have somebody, a team of people thinking about how to maintain the culture, how to grow the culture of the organization, and how to maintain a unity of purpose. The second is talent. Basically, I don't really know many growth strategies that will not require additional talent. And in the 21st century, this is the big hurdle. How we attract the right talent, how we retain the right talent, how that talent contributes to the growth strategy is important. So I I would stress that through these cycles of growth that we have had, we have really concentrated on having people that have growth potential themselves, because you can anticipate the workforce needs of the next 2 years, but really it's getting harder and harder to anticipate the workforce needs of the next 5 or 7 or 10 years. And one thing that is key in this aspect is to have the flexibility of having a workforce that is adaptive, is a workforce that is centric, that is their main central topic is your culture, your mission, but that they can adapt and learn and have the capacity to continue to learn with you. And lastly, quality. It does not good. It does not do any good for us, for children, for communities to grow for the sake of growth. And it's very hard to replicate with quality. And this is one that will stress that once you think of that you think about quality always as something that most likely will be less as you grow, and be certainly paranoid about quality and protecting quality. As you grow and you start to share resources and you start to interact with new populations, and sometimes you learn about new topics, quality usually get put to the test. And in any growth effort, I would um, suggest that in the team, we have a group of people dedicated to understanding what quality is, what quality uh, looks like in different settings, and a process to evaluate that quality that we all are aspiring to is being replicated in the different growth efforts. So three things, again: culture, talent, and quality as we think about adversity moving forward. I think that the growth, a lot of growth is internally focused, and I want to stress this because we have seen everything in the spectrum, and um, I'm sure that in this room, including us, there everybody have been approached at one time or another by an external group or an internal organization or institution that have seen your work, validate your work, and think that your work is worth replicating or growing in other communities. I want to stress that to do that with quality requires a lot of internal work. So while we never close the door that sometimes somebody can walk through our building or organization and offer a once in a lifetime opportunity to expand our services, I would argue that we cannot count on having a growth strategy um, waiting for somebody to walk through the door. So it will be internally driven. It will be internally driven based on the populations that we serve, on the best interest of the children, families, and communities that we serve. But most of the time, we will find ourselves as the custodians of that vision for growth. So what that means is that other people need to know about that. And we have to put time to share that vision, to get others involved in the work that we do. So once we have the foundation, the internal foundation of, of growth, we have systems, we have established the purpose of the organization, we have goals against that growth. We need to go on the road and share a vision. We have to interact with as many people as possible and share what is our highest aspirations for our community. And one thing that I want to stress is that growth, well-managed growth strategies are very detail oriented and have a lot of information to back up expansion plans or program quality improvement cycles, fundraising campaigns. All of that really requires a lot of details. Our Through the years, we have learned that to have people buy into this growth strategy is more important that people understand, are clear about the vision, and understand how they play and fit within that vision rather than every detail of the plan. So once you have determined how you're going to grow, it's important that you start synthesizing that message in one, two, three sentences that are easily shareable with your stakeholders. And at the end of the day, when we put all these things together and we have internally think about how we want to grow and we are go on the road and we start asking people to be part of that vision, I want to remind you that it's the work of the leaders to provoke change. And there is no growth strategy that will happen without leadership. And the role of the leader really is to create spaces for that growth to happen. But there's a unique and wholesome role of that leader that is about thinking about the best path possible for growth. That leader has to internalize that roadmap and believe that it's achievable. And that leader has to be able to dream about how that growth really brings about better services, better opportunities for the people that we serve. I lastly want to leave you with um, something that I share every time that I have an opportunity to talk to my own colleagues here when we think about growth. People in the center. Every time that you are approached either by your internal staff or by your board or by outside stakeholders, it is paramount that you as a leader hold the role of keeping people in the center. And people in the center are strictly the people that your mission wants to support. And I bring this up because a lot of time when we think about growth, we think about the programs that we are devoted to, or we think about the talent that we might have, or we think about what would be cool to have. My word of caution is that that will not be lasting. If we want to hold growth that is lasting, compounded, and that really change generations, keep people in the center. If you keep people in the center, you think, you believe, and you dream, growth will happen. Best of lucks. I hope that we can meet again and that we can share success stories and adversity as we continue to walk in this road. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this conference.